Welcome to Small Business, Big Network, the podcast for small business owners who want big results from their networking. I'm Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist who knows that if you're not working, then networking could help. Helena Baker is the founder of ESN, the English-speaking network, which is based in Israel. Helena has been in business since the tender age of 22, and she lives and breathes networking. She's also a bit of a whiz on LinkedIn. Thank you very much for being my podcast guest today, Helena.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you're someone who lives and breathes networking, but first let's have a chat about you. What's your career story? What's your background?
Well, it's quite varied. So I started as a freelance copywriter when I was very young. I was about 22, which is very young to start a business. And really had no connections, had no idea what I was doing, if I'm really honest. And I'm not sure how I got invited into the world of networking, but kind of quite quickly did. And I really found that as kind of the only way for me to grow my business at the time, just because of my lack of experience. And I was always, fairly good at schmoozing. So I don't know how much you know about networking, if you've heard of things like BNI or Women in Business Networking or anything like that.
Yep.
So as I kind of did them all, I would wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 3 times a week and drive off right around London and kind of just network as much as I possibly could. And kind of grew my business that way. And when I moved countries, so I moved to Israel in January 2019, I found there was kind of a lack of English-speaking networking groups here. So the world here is very, very focused on high-tech, and that's really the networking ecosystem here is high-tech based, which really wasn't for me at all. I'm not a techie, I can't write tech. So I saw a real gap in the market for networking groups, for English-speaking business owners here, and really started this as a way to kind of improve my own personal network as a copywriter. And then slowly but surely kind of understood actually this is, what I really love doing. So I now run English-speaking networking, which has local groups here in Israel. And I now have online groups as well. So I have ESN International, which is for business owners around the world. And I have groups for professional services, the creatives, and health and wellness as well.
So what was it that took you to Tel Aviv?
Sure. I mean, I had like a connection to Israel in general. I've been here a lot as a kid and kind of enjoyed it. And if I'm really honest, I wasn't from London. I was like a transplant from Manchester. And I found London quite a hard city, actually. I didn't really enjoy it as much as I think, I could have done. And I thought I was kind of just ready for a change and honestly just thought it'd be quite easy to move. I mean, it's not easy to move countries at all, especially to the Middle East, especially when you don't speak the language. But at the time, it just seemed like quite an exciting adventure when I was 26, and it seemed like the right time. I'm very happy with my decision, but I wouldn't say it was easy in any way.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the kind of work that you do, copywriting, it doesn't really matter where you're based.
Well, that was the theory, I think, because, all my business had been gotten through networking, which is well, and obviously COVID stopped it, but there was so much of it in England, in London specifically. Once I moved here, I kind of did have a problem that my main route to market was kind of snatched away from me. So in theory, yes, but it obviously was quite challenging. And in the end, and also, if I'm honest with you, I didn't really love copywriting, so I think I was quite happy to let it go when I did.
Yeah.
But in theory, yes, it was very easy to transfer.
So tell me about what happened when the pandemic hit and everything kind of shut down, including networking.
So it's funny, like we were kind of a bit ahead of England in the sense that like you went into lockdown, I think like quite a few weeks after us, like we were kind of, doing things much earlier over here. And I have obviously networking groups at the time. They were all face-to-face. At the time, I had 2 groups. And I remember watching the numbers change. They were saying, okay, well, you can have 50 people in the room. And I thought, okay, I can still have my meetings. And they were like, well, you can have 30 people in the room. And I was like, you can still have your meetings. And then I remember the night it went down. It was a Saturday night, and I was watching the news with my then boyfriend, now husband, and it was like, okay, now it's gone down to 10. And I remember just thinking, oh my gosh, wow, like I'd only had the business for 6 months, and I was like, wow, it's really over. Like this is the end of my business. There's just no way to recover from this. Because at the time, online networking didn't exist as a concept. It was kind of done here and there quite poorly, but no one was doing it in a structured way, and there didn't seem to be much of a demand for it, in fact. So for 2 weeks, I would say I kind of didn't really get out of bed and was quite down in the dumps and felt very sorry for myself. And then and obviously at the time I was doing the copywriting, of course there was no copywriting work coming in either because, everyone was in kind of a state of shock. And what really happened then is I kind of did two things, and one was a bad idea and one was a very good idea. The first thing I did was I paused all of the meetings because at the time, like I said, they were all face-to-face, and I didn't really feel comfortable charging it for online meetings. And instead I did like online free networking meetings just here and there, just to really understand the platform, how it worked, and that people did want it actually, and it was working. That was a good idea. The bad idea that I did was I kind of tried to create this whole new program for online networking with speakers, and it was really quite a bust. But what I did, I think, do well during COVID is I was constantly active on social media. So when I did then go back face to face for a little while, people were like excited and they knew about me and they had seen me post this whole time when people were all on social media because it's all they could do. And then when I went back online because I had to because of another lockdown here, I then understood that actually online networking was powerful, it was working, and people were prepared to pay for it. So in the end, it definitely benefited my business overall. But those first, I would say, 2 months were extremely scary. And it was very, very hard for me to kind of understand exactly the focus that I should be having.
Yeah. And I guess the fact that this was a global pandemic and everybody was affected by it means that everyone has now got used to online networking, and that must have opened up opportunities for your business.
Yeah. 100%. So yeah, I mean, with the international networking, which I kind of started about a year ago, is I was really like, oh wow, here's the potential. People now can network all over the world. They're working more from home. Someone from, let's say, Wales who wants to network more in London or in America, where people are paying, a little bit more than, let's say, a small town in Wales, they're able to do so from the comfort of their own home. There's something really compelling about that idea. And not to say that face-to-face networking has gone, because I think there's a huge power to that and it can be extremely powerful and useful. I just think that you can do online for those people who don't want to travel or can't travel, and especially for parents, it's especially powerful for them who kind of have much less time because they're planning their day around pickup as well.
Yeah. So tell me about the format of your networking meetings then.
So, I mean, listen, I wouldn't say it's anything revolutionary in terms of how networking works. So at every meeting, everyone has 60 seconds to introduce themselves, say who they are and what they do. Then we have a guest or member speaker, and those guest speakers is quite different because most structured networking groups, they only take speakers from within the network, which is great and there's nothing wrong with that. I just found that the guest speakers brought a really different energy to the groups. They bring a different expertise, and we can get people at like a pretty high level. We've had some, really huge and big speakers, and actually our members have had business from those speakers as well. So it kind of adds a really nice, I would say, alternative shift to it. And then if it's online, we have breakout rooms. So during the meeting, people tell me, listen, I want to speak with X, I want to speak with Y, and I put them in a breakout room with those people. And if it's face-to-face, of course, there's just time for more schmoozing. I think, and I hope what people get from our networking, because obviously, now there is a lot of online networking than there was before, is that it's a very warm and friendly approach. Like I lead the meetings or my colleague Daniel does, and we're both, younger, quite, friendly. We want people to enjoy the experience, and there's a big focus on that. Whereas I think a lot of networking can seem quite daunting and quite scary sometimes, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So what's the ratio now between the online and the face-to-face networking that you're running?
Well, I'm much more online than face-to-face. So actually what was interesting in Israel is that when we could eventually go back face-to-face and it seemed clear that that was kind of not going to change, I emailed all my members being like, great, we're going back face-to-face. And no one really wanted it, actually, which was quite surprising. I think people have gotten used to it. So we have one full-time face-to-face group in Tel Aviv. And then the other two ones in Israel are hybrid. So they meet mostly online. And then every 6 weeks, we have a face-to-face meeting, which always gets a lot of guests. And then my 3 international groups are fully online. So actually only one of my groups out of 6 is fully online, although fully face-to-face. I will be changing that slightly in September and kind of moving one of those online groups face-to-face.
Yeah. So tell me about who comes to your meetings. What kind of businesses do you get in the room?
So there's quite a mix. I would say it's mostly small business owners who are looking at kind of 0 to 10 in terms of like 1 to 10 in terms of employees. And it's, law firms, graphic designers, web designers, accountants. In terms of our creative group, that's really focused on people who are in marketing. So web designers, graphic designers, copywriters. And then the health and wellness group is very focused on health and wellness. So we have, nutritionists, ADHD coaches, back specialists, that sort of thing. But really kind of the link between them all is that they are all, small to medium-sized businesses really looking to gain more clients and also gain a network of people who are there to support them. Like, I think that's people are paying for this group, so there's no question it's for people to get more clients, and I'm very clear that that is the goal of the group. But seeing those kind of like additional friendships and communities built has been something that's really special to me, actually.
Now, those online international groups, which countries are people coming from, and how are you coping with time differences?
Yeah, so that's the time differences. I've definitely become very good at understanding. Well, you say that, and I got the timing of this podcast wrong, which is quite embarrassing. But I have got much better with time differences. So we have the two creatives, the creative and health and wellness, meets at 9:00 my time, which is 7:00 UK time, and 2:00 New York time, 11:00 Pacific time. So we basically get in all of the time zones. I've yet to be able to get in Australia. It would be about 6 a.m. for them, though I have had people come from Australia and wake up at 6 a.m. for the meetings. It's happened quite a few times. It just shocked me, to be honest. And I'd struggled, I think, to get that time zone in. But I've worked pretty hard to find a time that I think works for our target demographic, which is essentially obviously Israel, but the Middle East in general, America, and all of America, because of course America has tons of time zones, unlike England, and then digital nomads right around. So people in Europe, there's a big digital nomad community in Europe as well. So really trying to get everyone in, and one day I'd like to open a group that also has Australians fitted in, but I'd have to do it kind of like 2 a.m. my time, which I'm not opposed to, but I think I need to prepare for that a little bit more.
And what would you say people are getting out of coming to your meetings?
Listen, so mostly it's business, and that's what it comes down to. People are paying for these groups. I make no bones about the fact that I'm here to help you get more clients, and I do everything I can to help you. But definitely that's the main thing, business, and a lot of the members, do Instagram lives together, and they collaborate as well. Alongside that, I offer to all of the members free support on their 60 seconds, and also using LinkedIn, which I do for private clients. I do LinkedIn. So I really help with that, and really essentially help the members and hold their hand through the entire networking journey. So we have a lot of people who've never done networking before, and it can be quite a strange kind of entity. It's its own little niche. So I'm really there to kind of help them and talk them through the entire process. Obviously, our guest speakers are a huge bonus, which is very unique to networking. Mostly, it's like I said, the member speakers, and all of our talks are recorded. So I have a ton of content to share to our members. And then finally, of course, they get the opportunity to speak as well. But I'd say the two main focuses are getting more business, and also, building a community of people, colleagues who are happy to help you.
Yeah. Now, I know that you're a huge fan of LinkedIn, and you mentioned it just then. What do you think is so good about that particular platform?
Okay, what I think about LinkedIn, honestly, the main thing, I shouldn't say this because I do it for clients, but the secret to LinkedIn, in my opinion, is that it's very easy. It's not like Instagram where you're going up against huge competition and, you need to have terrible photos and reels. And it's not like Facebook where really these days you've got to be paying for ads. It's quite straightforward, LinkedIn. They now only allow you to connect with 100 people a week. So you connect to 100 people a week, you write them a message or you don't, but it's very easy to kind of, increase your connections, as it were. And then you want to post regularly, and you want to do 1 or 2 posts a week. Keep it consistent, and it can be around a tip, it can be around something interesting happening in the news, it can be a case study. There's so much content, there's so many ideas that are there to have, and you don't need to use a picture. Obviously, you can if you want, but there's no pressure to kind of find an aesthetic and beautifully taken photo. It's a very simple platform, like it's quite a simple science. You do the outreach, you post once or twice a week, it will work. I've just started working with a virtual assistant on her LinkedIn, and she there's a huge demand for virtual assistants, so it wasn't a huge challenge, but she's already getting clients just by being consistent and really reaching out to people. So I really like that it's quite straightforward, in my opinion. I think that's also great. And then the second thing is that if you are B2B, your clients are on LinkedIn. There's no question. And that's from small clients to, the big companies. I get huge companies in Israel asking me for business. So they are there. It's just tapping into that network and doing so in a really clear and, clear and consistent way. But the business is there to be had and people are there to buy.
Yeah. And I know you train other people to use LinkedIn effectively. What kind of specific help and support are you able to give them?
Yeah, so like I said, with the LinkedIn, it's in terms of the training, it's really just helping them understand the platform, getting them together with some form of strategy. And then with my private clients, I create content strategies for them. I post the content for them. I do the outreach for them. I kind of take over the whole thing at the back end so they can kind of just sit back and relax, as it were. But honestly, like LinkedIn, I really do, my dream is that I work with a client for a few months and they go ahead and do it by themselves, because I really do believe that most business owners are capable of using LinkedIn. There's so many different ideas you can be thinking of and inspiration you can be taking from. I do feel, and I've tried used Instagram many times and struggled a lot. But LinkedIn, it's just a dream of a social media, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think very much for business to business.
Yeah, for sure. But obviously B2C is a little bit different, but yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think that the future of networking is now? We're kind of coming out the end of the pandemic. We can do face-to-face. A lot is still online. What do you think the future holds?
That's a great question. So I think it's quite mixed. I think there's kind of two halves of networking, and the one is there's three. Firstly, a lot of people after COVID have started their own businesses, and because I think they've seen actually that being employed isn't always as comfortable or as what's what I'm looking for, or as reliable as you would think. And the other half is people have gone abroad and gone to work in different countries because they now can do so. People are used to working remotely. So I think the market for people who are looking to network has grown. Firstly, I think there's much bigger pie to be had in this kind of business for everyone. And I really do believe that. The second thing is, I think that there's now two camps, and there's the camp that's only wants online networking. They have no desire to meet up face to face. And I would challenge that market to still try and do some face to face networking, because I do genuinely believe, and I run online networking groups, that there is nothing quite like face to face. And I really would challenge those people to try and get, once a month, twice a month to a face to face networking group. And then there's those other camp who are, just desperate to get out of the house, desperate to do face to face networking and kind of ready to rock and to roll. And those are the two camps as I see it. And I think we'll see a lot more networking in general because there's just much more people now looking for it. I think we're going to see a lot more online networking, and I think we're going to see that stay. I would say that I think online will slow down because it's much, much harder. People are much less incentivized to come regularly because there's always a reason not to turn on the computer. Whereas if you have to leave the house, it's kind of a different thing. So I think we will see that slow down somewhat, and you're going to have to work much harder to get those people. And I think those people want face-to-face. If you can access that market is hot and it is ready to go. And I think that will kind of it will grow a little bit and then remain stable because, there's always been face-to-face networking and that won't change. I think online will grow very quickly now, but will look to slow down, I suspect.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned a lot of people, starting up new businesses during the pandemic. And so there are a lot of people who are new to networking. What kind of advice would you give to people who are networking for the first time?
Sure. So the first thing is you are not there to sell. Never, ever. I see it face to face. I see it online. People coming and they're just on the sell. Please don't ever think of networking as someone who is looking to sell. It's embarrassing. It's awkward, and it's extremely off-putting. You want to come to a networking meeting, whether it's online or face to face, with the idea of making friends, essentially, building relationships. You want to come with a smile. You want to come with a pitch that's convincing and compelling, and do practice that pitch in the mirror. Do get that ready. And then in the chats, whether it's online or face-to-face, how are you doing? Where are you from? Are you new to networking? Ask questions. Be interested. Be engaged. Obviously, I would always say keep the questions away from politics, away from family life. I think it's always safer to just keep it fairly kind of bland, as it were. But, be engaged and interesting. And just look to come and schmooze and to make new connections, really. And the business will come. But if you come kind of ready to sell from the outset, no one's going to want to throw your business. It comes across as quite the kids would say now, thirsty, as it were. You're coming to make connections and have that in the front of your mind at all times.
Yeah. So finally then, Helena, if people are interested in finding out more about your network and maybe coming to a meeting, whether they're in Israel and can come to a face-to-face one, or they're looking at the online networks, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Sure. So welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn, which is definitely where I'm the most active, which is Helena Baker. So Helena Baker, and hopefully be able to put that in the show notes as well.
Yep.
They're welcome to follow the Instagram for the international group. I'm working on it very hard. It's not my proudest, but I'm definitely getting there. And that's Internationalesn. And of course, they can check out the website as well, which is internationalesn.com. And they can see all about kind of what we're doing in the groups. But definitely LinkedIn's a great place to start because I have lots of content there on networking, on using LinkedIn, lots of tips and tricks. So should be some helpful content over there for you.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much for joining me today, Helena, and the best of luck with the network going forward.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Small Business, Big Network. If you found this podcast useful, please do rate, review and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with the rest of your network too.